Hello everybody, this is Tim here again, here another movie review, this time for Orphan First Kill, which I just got done watching. I did a review, I believe, for the original Orphan like a long time back, like I think like around the time maybe after it first came out, or maybe a little later. But the original Orphan I actually did enjoy. I think I actually had a pretty good time with it, really. I think I remember giving it like a 3.5 out of 4, or maybe a 4 out of 4. It was something like that, but pretty high. I didn't rewatch it for this because I remember most of that one, but in terms of Orphan First Kill, I'll go ahead and say it. I liked it. I had really no faith in this movie when it was first announced because I'm like, a prequel to The Orphan? Why do we need that? We already know the twist. I was like most people. Um, Isabella Furman, who plays Esther or whatever, she's a good looking woman in real life, but of course she's like 28 now, so she has to try to pass for like a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old. And when you see her in the movie with all the makeup effects and all the body doubles and camera tricks that they try to use, whenever they do sometimes it does work because you're seeing her from a distance, but whenever they do like a focus on her face, you can tell that she's obviously like 28 years old. You can tell. But at the same time, though, by the time you get to a certain point in the movie picks up, and the actress is doing such a good job acting as Esther that you don't really mind it. Eventually, you just kind of get over it because you're getting into the movie. That's the thing. If you have fun with this movie, or any movie, you can forgive certain things. And of course, doing a prequel, you already know Esther is going to survive because she dies in the first movie, which is after this. And that's kind of the hard thing about doing prequels, because you kind of already know the way they're going to turn out. Like, I have not enjoyed very many prequels at all. Like, one of the only other prequels I liked was, Leatherface, the prequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but that's mostly because the continuity in Texas Chainsaw Massacre is all over the place, and they're constantly changing Leatherface and his family and everything else, and that series is constantly rebooted and remade. So the fact they want to do like a solo Leatherface movie as a prequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I was fine with in that series by that point. And the fact that it wasn't just another redneck torture porn movie, but it was more like akin to like Devil's Rejects, I was fine with it because that movie has like endless sequels, that franchise does, and they hadn't really done much different with most of them, so I was fine with a different flavor in that series. That didn't really bother me. It's not a perfect movie, but ultimately I had a good time with it. Um, this film right here, I'll go ahead and say it, I'd give it a 3 out of 4. I had a good time with it as well. It's entertaining. It's not a great movie. It's not a perfect movie. The first half of the movie is kind of boring. You're kind of in and out of it. Even though the Isabella Furman does a good job acting-wise, you're still kind of focusing on the fact that she obviously looks older. But because mostly the problem with the first film is it's kind of, I mean, the first half, it's kind of uneventful because it's kind of hitting the exact same beats as the original film, the first one. And you already kind of know where that story goes, so you're expecting it here. But at the same time, it works perfect for the twist in the movie that does feel like it takes a while to get to. But when it actually does hit, it really energizes the movie. And the whole rest of the second half of the movie is really entertaining because of that. Basically the twist in the movie you find out is that Esther's like escapes from the nut house, and it is kind of weird they don't start out with actually her origin story. She's like already in the nut house. That is kind of weird, but she escapes from there. You get a few kills or whatever, and this movie does have some incredible leaps in logic, but eventually you start having fun with it. Like the fact there's this crazy girl, and all you gotta say is want some candy or whatever, and she just like starts attacking random people. It's like they wouldn't be letting this chick just wander around when she's that violent. She would be locked up in a cell like 24/7. Yeah, she wouldn't be walking around. Like, yeah, it's ridiculous. And when Esther, like, comes back to the family or whatever, well, she takes the name Esther to, like, pose as this missing girl, and she's coming back to the family. And, like, they don't fingerprint her or anything or whatever. Like, automatically when the police, like, find her, they would have fingerprinted her and all that to find out who she is and everything. And they would have came back, obviously, as not the actual Esther. But they don't do that, just kind of skip over it, of course, because it's a leap in logic that you just kind of have to let go. But they get her back, and Julia Stiles is the mom, and you got the son in here who's like this older upper crust type guy. It's like a kind of a rich, preppy family or whatever. And the son is like a big asshole. Later on in the movie, you kind of find out why. But the twist in the movie eventually is what you find out is that Julia Stiles and the son actually murdered the daughter. Well, the son did because of he was jealous of her basically, and then the mom covered it up because she obviously loves her son more than her daughter, or did, and she just wanted to cover it up because she wanted to keep her son around. So yeah, her and the son are both scumbags. They're worse than the Esther chick is because the Esther chick is insane. So that's basically the twist of the movie. Because of the prequel, they had to do something different. So the twist is she's in with a group of psychopaths who are worse than she is. So that's the twist to it. And I thought it worked. It made the movie entertaining. They play like this cat and mouse game up or whatever, where they try to feed her poison to get rid of her eventually. At first, they're wanting to like play along because they don't want to upset the dad, because if the daughter comes back and it disappears again, then they might be upset. He might have a stroke or something. So they want to play into it or whatever at first, but then they decide to try to get rid of her because she's too risky to keep around. And they try to poison her, and she feeds the food to her pet rat, and she doesn't know it's actually poisoned and accidentally kills the rat or whatever. And eventually Julia Stiles like goes off and like eventually tries to kill her, and you get like this big fight at the end where and also the son is like helping try to take her out, and they start like beating the shit out of her and throw her down the stairs. And the son's going down there, and I hated this upper crust like preppy kid or whatever character as the son. The actor does a good job though. The acting in this film I would say is solid, except for the father, but it's not the actor's fault. He does a good job for what he's trying to do. He's just the oblivious dad, just like the Peter Stormare, I believe is the actor's name in the first one. Here it's kind of the same thing. He's just a token nice guy, and he's kind of stuck in the middle of everything because he's the one true innocent of the group. Because he really just wants his daughter back and doesn't know that she was murdered by his own family. So yeah, he's just the one true innocent of the group, trapped in all this. And the son and the mom are like trying to kill Esther. And the son gets down and he's like, "Where you at, you little shit?" And she pops out or whatever and hits him with the crossbow and then runs over there and stabs him to death or whatever. Um, it's a cool scene. It's fun. And then Julia Stiles walks down there and starts like beating the shit out of her. And then the house catches on fire and they climb on top of the roof. It's kind of similar to The Good Son, if you've seen that, where the Macaulay Culkin and Elijah Wood are like both hanging off the edge. They kind of repeat it here. Like Julia Stiles and Isabella Fuhrman as Esther are like hanging off the edge of the house or whatever. And the dad shows back up finally. And he comes up there to try to save them. But Julia Stiles' character just accidentally slips and falls to the ground and she gets killed. And then he pulls her back up, and her fake teeth, accidentally fall out. So she has to confess to him who she really is, or whatever. And she's like, "I love you," and she tries to tell him who she really is. And then he just, from shock, just slips and falls as well, and he dies. And then she puts on the outfit that she has in the first Orphan, and then that leads to her being put pretty much in an orphanage where she eventually gets adopted by the family, or she will eventually get adopted by the family in the first film. So yeah, it brings it perfect circle. So overall, yeah, the second half of this movie is what saves it because it brings in all these new directions. And by the second half, by the end of it, you do feel sorry for the Esther character because even though she is evil and killing people, you get it that she's insane. Like there's different levels of evil. Like there's people who are consciously know what they're doing, like the Julia Stiles character and the son, who are just pure scumbags, like totally pure evil. And then there's people like Esther, characters like Esther, or maybe even more like Jason Voorhees as well, who were just crazy because they were abused. You know, Jason was left to drown or whatever and die, and this chick was sexually abused when she was little because no matter how old she got, she still looked like a child. So in the first movie, of course, they find out the backstory that the mom was like pimping her out or whatever, something like that, as a prostitute to pedophiles and stuff. So yeah, basically she's insane. So it's not the same as really being pure evil because she's crazy. She probably doesn't even know what she's really doing. I mean, because she is insane. I mean, she knows it to some level, but not to like a wide extent because, of course, she is crazy. So yeah, all in all, you do end up rooting for like Isabella Fuhrman's character, and yeah, overall, I'll give this 3.5. It was, I mean, a 3 out of 4. Overall, 3 out of 4. A good, entertaining movie that works as a prequel because it does something different, in order to make itself fresh, which is what works here. Instead of just like mostly trying to fill in the gaps to what led to the first movie, that's why this one works. It's fun. It's almost like pretty much almost like a slasher flick, or like a thriller combined with a slasher flick. But yeah, overall 3 out of 4, good. Do we really need? There's talk of like doing a third one. I don't really think you need a third one now at this point. You don't really need a third Orphan, especially you don't need some like mid-equal who takes place in between the two movies. You really don't need that. The only way you could really do a third one is if you like brought Esther back after the ending of the first movie and had her like miraculously survive, so they could just do like another sequel or whatever. But then you would be kind of trapped in that situation where it might end up just being the same thing as the first movie again, or even the first half of this one where she's trying to like lust after the father again or whatever. So you're stuck in a tight spot unless you like change her motive or her MO. Like maybe it changes after the first movie. Maybe you could do that and just like make her like a slasher character or something that's going around just taking people out Freddy and Jason style. Maybe you could do that. But yeah, overall, I'd give it a 3 out of 4. It's good. I liked it. And thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again.